Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Dark Side of the Word, a weekly podcast for all the dark story lovers. I'm Kate, and I'm here with my diligent co-host, CJ.
Hello, everybody. Am I diligent because I usually end up reading the book first and early?
No, you're just always showing up.
Well, that's good. That's just good manners, honestly, but I will take diligent.
Spoiler, she's still giving me chapters.
You're giving me chapters, too, so you're also diligent.
You're spoiling our next podcast episode. I'm kidding. All right. Anyway, friends, it is my favorite episode. I think we're officially going to just call this the favorite
It is the
episode.
favorite
I know we had
episode.
a lot of debate. But it is book club time. And it's the last Thursday of the month if you can't. You've guessed it, so I hope that you've got a warm drink, a comfy spot to sit, and are ready to discuss the book that we hopefully all read. If not, stop now. There will be spoilers, serious spoilers. This is your warning. Turn back now. Pause. Go read the book. Come back. You're not being warned anymore. This is it. Okay? From this point on.
Spoilers abound.
Spoilers. Yes. And hold on. My computer just decided to delete like my entire script.
How? How is that even possible? Let's wing it. Let's go. No, I'm kidding.
No, I need this part because I read my little like handwritten synopsis and I need it.
Did it just like hide behind another window, or did it full on erase itself and disappear into the ether?
It was full on white page, but then I refreshed the page and now we got it back. We're good. We're good. Okay.
Whew, that was a close one, folks.
Friends.
That was a close one. All right, back to the regularly scheduled podcast.
If you haven't been already informed by every other podcast you've been listening to, this month we read Schrader's Chord by Scott Lead. Charlie's dad shouldn't be dead. He's not the type of man to commit suicide. But there's a text from Charlie's sisters that has him boarding a plane to deal with the aftermath back home in Seattle. The man with the magic ear, Charlie, had a falling out with his father years earlier, and since then they haven't spoken. And with his father's since then he hasn't spoken, and Charlie has tried to forget what happened. So when his father's will entrusts him with his father's record store and a black case with a note that says they're real, Charlie is ready to have a good laugh and go back home. Anna, who's worked for Charlie's dad for years, convinces him to play the records inside the case. Records that are fabled to be made by the Ivan Schrader, the man rumored to have found the chord that will open the gates of hell. Wrangling the help of Ellie, Charlie's twin sister, and Dale, the other employee at the record store, they simultaneously play all 4 records. At first, things are fine. There's nothing strange happening. But then the dead start to appear, leading the 4 of them into a dark path that shows them how Charlie's dad really died.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, and as usual, for our regularly scheduled programming, we begin with each other's ratings. And as usual, CJ, how did you rate the book?
I rated this book 4 stars.
Okay, which I already knew because that's what always happens.
Okay. But as it always happens, I do not know what you rated it because I am diligent and did not look at Goodreads to see what it was.
Oh, it's not my fault that you finished first, and
it's because I'm diligent.
I have to put my rating. You know what? I finished it 2 days before it was due to be done. I am proud. That is amazing.
And you will remember it a lot better than I will, probably. So, because it's more fresh for you.
Because see, you do read them a little too early.
I do.
But anyway, so I also gave it 4 stars.
Dude, we finally agreed on a book. Oh my God, Schrader's Chord. Oh
okay,
my
so
God.
I do want to just say, like, I really liked it.
Yeah.
But it was missing that for a 5-star.
Yeah.
Like, it was missing. So it was originally 4.5.
Okay.
For a very long time until the horse scene, and it lost half a star.
Yeah. Agreed.
And the ending wasn't as strong as I think it could have been. Even though I really like the ending, I think that there was a little bit more that we could have had for the ending.
I agree with you about the ending. I did not love it. But I find that happens to me a lot with horror novels where I am usually either very or somewhat disappointed with the ending. A lot of these just do not wrap up the way I want them to. I'm not sure that if I know what I want them to. It's just not as satisfying. And we can go into that whole thing later.
Yeah. Well, let's just continue going on the ending list.
Okay.
I think this is just a great jumping off.
Okay.
We'll go backwards.
All right, let's do it.
So a lot of times I feel that in horror books, it goes to the extreme and the way out there. Like, I don't know who's seen Sunshine. Like, 15 minutes at, like, when there's 15 minutes left, I turn off that movie because the way it goes is stupid. It's just like, really, why?
Yeah.
Or episode 13, where it just goes to the bizarre and the weird to explain it.
Yeah.
And I will say Schrader's Chord did not do that at all.
No.
The ending completely matched the book. I think it was superbly done in that sense. But I guess the book was so strong, I expected just a little bit stronger ending.
For me, it was, and again, this happens to me when I read a lot of horror stories. You know, we get to the end and we get to the explanation of what's really happening and what has to be done to save the world and all that stuff. And I feel like so many books tell it rather than show it. And in this case, that whole italicized section, I think there could have been more done with that, where we see, Ivan Schrader talking to the creatures of death who are talking, in their very loathsome human creature. What have you done? You're such a fool. Like, that's just so cliche. Oh my God, do we really have to talk like that? And it just is kind of meh, and it's just cliche dialogue by the creatures of death. And we were just told the story. It was all literally laid out like a diary entry for us. And that happened, it wasn't the ending, but in that other book we read by Kirsten White about the Minotaur, the playground one or whatever, the amusement park. Hyde. Yeah, Hyde. Thank you. How we learned the backstory through the diary entries, where we were literally just told. And I just wanted a little something more. I also didn't... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, maybe that's why I didn't like it, because I think that the content was really good. I appreciated Ivan lost his hearing, and then to be able to have the thing, to break the records. Charlie, who was this, essentially
man
magical genius,
also
had to lose his hearing to achieve. So gift for a gift, but it had to be someone special. It couldn't just be anyone with good hearing. Yeah. Like, it really had to be a gift. So I think that the content was really good. I think that even the tree part and all of the stuff, that was excellently done. But you're right. I think maybe it was just how it was written and how we achieved that. Like, he got shoved into Ivan's bones and then is able to have memories of this. Like, maybe that's where I feel like I fell flat.
I like the tie-in to Charlie having the golden ear. I feel like I should have seen that coming with the exchange, but I didn't. So I did like that. But the whole fact that to solve everything, Schrader just wanted his hearing back, it's kind of meh. Like, all Schrader wants is to have his wife speak to him. That's what he wants. That's going to satisfy the gods of death who are all, you have to pay for your transgressions, foolish human. It just seems a little less emphatic.
He wanted, let's change the wording there. Let's make it a little more emotional. He wanted to hear his wife's voice.
I know, but I don't know. It's sweet and it's very cute. And I understand that for a musician and a composer, hearing is everything. But I feel like the stakes were just a little lower than I was hoping for.
But isn't it more than that, though? Because, so he made this to be reconnected with his wife. And instead of being reconnected to his wife, he not only had to kill people because if anyone played the record, but he was kept from essentially dying and being able to move on to the past life to be with his wife, and had to live and keep doing all this damage to other people. And by Charlie destroying the records, not only can he now hear his wife, he's reunited with her and finally allowed to pass through to wherever souls go.
Okay, so I get why it would satisfy Schrader that exchange would make him happy. What I don't get is how it somehow satisfies, I'm just going to call them the gods of death, those three people, like the vampires in Twilight, who, when Charlie goes into the land of the dead, they're like, what have you done? You've messed up everything. This is against the laws of nature, blah, blah, blah. And they're okay with him just being like, oh, I'll just give you my hearing. Like, it seems kind of randy-pandy for them.
That I will agree. That's what it sounds like in the book, is that he actually here's my hearing. Now save us and let us live. Yeah. I think it was less that he actually gave up his hearing in the sense of Ariel giving up her voice, take my voice now. I can
true sacrifice.
And it was more that, because remember earlier in the book when the father talks about trying to destroy the records and you can't without severe pain.
Yeah.
I think what happens is that the only way to destroy the records is to suffer and have your extreme pain and push through it, which would be losing your hearing. So it's not like he actually gave up his gift of hearing in exchange to live. He pushed himself to break the records and go through that immense pain and essentially destroy his hearing. Does that make sense?
It does. It's just still feeling a little flat for me. I don't know what I would have wanted.
It wasn't an exchange.
I don't know what I would have wanted. Just something a little more bloodsheddy, a little more intense.
This wasn't horror enough
a little
for
more
you?
true. I mean, it is. I'm a musician. I understand what it's like to not have your hearing. It is a true sacrifice on his part to give up your golden ear, your ability to hear music, everything.
What if you lost your eyes?
Okay, I get it now.
You couldn't read anymore.
Okay, I get it. I'm right there with you. Oh, jeez. You always got to bring it back to the ocular trauma, man. Fuck you. But yes, I see your point. Okay. Perspective. It's all perspective. That is a very satisfying ending. Let's move on.
It broke me because where I felt very satisfied in losing the hearing is it broke me, and this is where I think that Leeds was an excellent writer and artist, is that, you know, he goes through this journey with his father throughout the entire book.
Yeah.
You go from, it starts with the records, and, you know, he finally learns who his father really is, what really happened. You know, he becomes his own man and all that, and then right before all that happens, he finds the fucking records, and as a reader, you have this moment of, he's gonna play them for Anna, he's gonna like build, maybe he'll become a famous musician now because he has the ability to have these records, and he has this moment with his dad, and you just see this whole future layout because, you know, you kind of assume they're gonna live.
Yeah.
Like, you see this whole future layout with his dad and getting a chance and doing his magic ear, and then all of that's thrown away later that night.
You know what? I think maybe that's what I'm upset about. They lived.
Oh, okay.
I think I'm a little upset that they lived. I feel like that's the safe ending. People live. They make the sacrifice. They save the day. Goodness reigns victorious. I like the stories where you're just left wondering what's going to happen, what has happened, or you're just, you know, Romeo and Juliet style, where there's just depression for days on end because it did not turn out the way you wanted it to. I want more stories like that.
Well, keep reading my books.
Noted.
It didn't bother me, I guess, because they had, like, the point of the story is they're going to destroy this evil thing. Like, it's like romance books. Like, you know, okay, we have this evil thing, we got to destroy it. I don't know, maybe the whole idea of giving up your life to finally destroy something is kind of like, I'm bored of that now. So the idea that, like, we're going to give up something else that, you know, you're forced to live now, you're the new Ivan, you have this ability to create music and you lose it. Like, I'm not as bothered by it.
Yeah. I feel like that book, The Voices, we read, like, that had a traumatic ending where there was just not a lot of hope. I don't remember exactly what the ending was, but it also involved music and it involved, you know, tapes. So it's similar.
Is that the child went missing with the couple in the new house?
Yeah, I think so. With the guy making the tapes. No, you love that one. You love that one. No, you love The Voices. You said it was the good one I recommended to you. Look at it. You might be you're thinking of another one because you love The Voices. I was so proud.
Listeners, I'm pulling up Goodreads. Damn it. You know, I hate when Goodreads doesn't have a good search option. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think Tellis is the last name, maybe?
And then when you go to your personal profile, it takes forever to load your bookshelf.
Tallis. Tallis.
I'm just pulling up on my books.
Yeah.
Oh. Because I also decided to make gothic horror and paranormal horror.
They are two very different genres.
I know, but I should have just created horror.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, I guess I gave it 4 stars.
Told you. So I don't know what... I forget the ending of The Voices. I just remember that it shook me. And the reason that it shook me is because it made me feel hopeless. They found the basement.
No, they found the basement.
Did they?
Like, they never found the kid, and then they found the basement with the dress in it.
Okay.
That showed, like, I think someone was actually living underground the whole time and it wasn't a ghost, it was a real person. We just spoiled another book for our listeners. No, that's not it.
No, there's no person. There was no person in it. It was, like, all supernaturally stuff.
No, they found the basement. I promise you. This is at the end. They dig up the backyard, like, years later, like someone else. They find a basement, and inside is the little girl's dress.
God damn it.
100% remember this. Because I think that's why I gave it a 4 stars.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anywho, all right, we're moving on.
Schrader's Chord.
Side tangent, Schrader's Chord. Okay.
All right. So, I think as a book as a whole, I thought that this was a very original story.
Yes.
I thought that it was different than a lot of horror books out there where I feel like we either go paranormal or serial killer. And I could see this being the next Grady Hendrix.
I loved this writer. I thought he was fantastic. You know, admittedly, when I first read the premise of this book, I was a little stumped because I was trying to think how you could get a whole book out of this premise. Like a chord is played that opens to the land of the dead. Okay, it's played. Now what? What's going to happen? It seems like everything would just happen in 1 second. And you're saying, oh, I played a chord, and boom, and that's it. And I was wondering how he was going to pull this into a full-length novel. And he just blew it out of the park for me. That scene when the four of them play all of the records at once and you're transported with them. And I think that's a really great use of third person too, because you got to see what happened to each person as they played each record, how you're just transported to that land of the dead. They're all there. They're all seeing something, hearing something. I felt like I was in Silent Hill with that foghorn or whatever, the air horn in the background. I felt like I was there. And that was probably, a moment, 2 moments in the book time, but you could just feel how much was happening in there. And that is something I haven't seen done very well, stretching out time like that, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. And that's something I just really enjoyed about this book. Other things I thought... Go ahead.
I was blown away by the third person. I am a big proponent of hating third person because it creates a distance in writing, and it's something for me that not a lot of people can pull off.
Yeah.
And I would totally agree that Leeds was exceptional at it. He wove the interchanging of who was more of the lead in the chapter very, very well without you guessing who was thinking. So it was like this mashup of like fly on the wall. I don't know the terminology, people like omnipotent.
Omniscient.
But it was omniscient versus blah, blah. But it was more of like he mixed the fly on the wall perfectly with the one that's like very like close to who's telling the story.
Yeah.
And he like kind of flowed effortlessly through that, which I didn't know you could do without making a reader annoyed.
Yeah.
And superb third person writing.
Yeah. There were a few times where I guess we were, in Charlie's perspective, for lack of better, phrase, for a while, and then we would suddenly find out what Anna was thinking. But like, wait, how does he know what Anna's thinking? I think that's just me being over analytical because I'm always just analyzing writing now. But overall, it did feel really smooth. I love seeing all the different perspectives, right after each other. I think there was really great dialogue in this. Okay, so I had a thought about House of Last Resort.
Oh no!
And no, you're gonna be happy with this. So even though I still love the amazing, wonderful, superb House of Last Resort, I see what you mean. Comes back to that always. I see what you mean about the level of dialogue and how well it's written in Schrader's Chord versus the House of Last Resort. And this in Schrader's Chord is what you were looking for. And I do agree, it is superior in Schrader's Chord.
I'm screaming right now. I'm silently screaming at the camera right now.
What you were going for and what you were hoping for and why you were so disappointed, because this book, Schrader's Chord, has it. It is just fantastic. It's quick. It's snappy. It has movement. It felt realistic. It kept me engaged through the whole story. Like not once was I ever like, oh my God, can we just get through this passage already? Except the horses. But in terms of character interaction and dialogue, everything kept me riveted. And that alone, to have such great dialogue, is an amazing feat as a writer.
There was such emotional depth to the conversation, like your ability to feel the angst, the anger, like everything, and that's what you need in a conversation. It's like what I was always told is you come in the middle of a conversation, you leave early. Because you have to come in that moment where it punches. Like you're not just here to have two people have a conversation. You're here to learn something and to feel something, to understand these people. And I superbly agree. And that too, I think, lended to one of the reasons I think this could be the next Grady Hendrix is one thing that I am obsessed about Grady Hendrix is not only does he write superb horror, okay? It's like, we can tell you like, makes your skin crawl, but his character depth and his ability to create these real 3D characters and have in-depth, like, character feeling, like actually having you feel for these people as people and to really see them as flesh and bone is something that Leeds also pulled off magically. And part of that I think is due to the amazing dialogue he wrote. Yeah. Because I really felt all of these characters and they 100% felt like very, very different people.
They did. They felt very real. I felt I knew them. I watched this whole thing played like a movie in my head, basically. I pictured every single second. It was a total immersory experience.
100%.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think helped lend to the story, like, side note real quick, I think that I can't believe this is a debut book, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like the level. This is not
finally a debut novel where I understand how it got to be a debut novel.
But the other thing is that there was so much sensory input into this book as well. Like the one scene that stuck out to me and I was just like, oh, wow, like I'm obsessed, is when they were in the funeral home and he was talking about smelling the pledge and the vibe of the space, and just, I was like, I want to write like this.
Yeah. I noticed he had a lot of good use of similes and metaphors, which I always enjoy. There was one that stuck out to me toward the end. There were so many that stuck out to me throughout the book, but one I really loved was toward the end. I think they were climbing a mountain or something, and said he scaled that mountain like so-and-so going up Everest. And I forget the guy's name, but I watch a lot of history shows, and I learned about the guy who like first scaled Everest. And it's just such a funny, unique, niche type of simile, but it totally works. And to pull that out of thin air like that, it's just so good. It's so good. And there were so many things like that throughout the entire book where it really brought the book alive. One thing I want to talk about that I loved too is that his concept of ghosts in this book. So the thing with horror is that you can kind of make your own rules. Like take Stephenie Meyer, who made her vampires in Twilight. I know that's not horror, but it's a horror beast. She made her vampires in Twilight sparkle. Most vampires don't do that. I think she was the first, or at least one of the first, but she made her own rules for her monsters, and Lee did the same with his ghosts. He made them very corporeal, which isn't usually how it works. He even acknowledged, like, we don't even know how this works. Why can I sit in a chair, but I can't go through a door? And I think that's really smart, to acknowledge the weirdness of the world that you're writing. You're trying to create this whole life for these ghosts and their rules, and it's really difficult, and it's been really helpful to me since I'm writing about ghost children and I'm making a world where ghosts are real. Like in my world, they exist, they're irrefutable. What does that entail? I have to make it extraordinary but also believable, and I feel like Leeds did that. It made sense what was happening with them. I really liked that human aspect. So they were dead, but it wasn't really that different from being alive. In fact, I think it had a lot of perks, because you don't have to have a job and make money. You can come and go as you please. The only thing that's really annoying is that pesky Ivan Schrader trying to kill you after you listen to the records. Otherwise, they'd be like, what's the rush? Why just stay ghost and you can be with your family, So I just like how they became people after a while. They were super scary in the beginning when we didn't understand what they were. And then they were just characters in the story. They weren't spooky. And the only thing scary was Ivan Schrader at the end.
I think a lot of people forget, because when you think, oh, world building, you're building a world, and that belongs to the sci-fi fantasy nerds. Like, world building only exists for them. I don't need to worry about that because I'm based in the human world. But horror also has a lot of world building, because again, you're dealing with monsters, you're dealing with ghosts, you're dealing with a wide array of these things that don't really exist in our world, and you need to make rules for them. Stephenie Meyer's with, okay, my vampires could go in the sun, but what makes them like they can't just exist? Oh, I'm going to make them sparkle, And Leeds made sure to put rules on his ghosts in a very well thought way that was carried throughout the entire book. And one of the details that I found really great about that is, they're very corporeal, they're very exist in our world, but I think that happened because they're ripped when the door was open. They're ripped back into our world. So this is kind of like how they live in their own world. And then, which I appreciated this little detail, is that they were ripped back and having to exist here instead of happily in whatever afterlife exists in Leeds' world. And so that lended to like, oh, I see how they can be corporeal now, but it's not like a good thing that they're here. They're not here all the time. They only exist now because they cut the veil or whatever boundary existed between the two of them. And since we're talking about the ghosts, so when I read the synopsis for this, I did expect like an entire like zombie, like, oh my god, or they went to hell, like not that it existed on our world, like they went to hell in the book. That's kind of what I expected. Okay. So when they stop playing the records and they're in the world and like nothing's happening, I was like, oh, interesting. But the way that Leeds revealed that they could see ghosts,
it was the best.
Holy shit!
Oh, it was so good, right?
I just closed the book and I was like, damn.
I had the same. You're talking, for anybody listening, we're talking, I think we're both talking about when they see the homeless guy outside, and then they tell the waitress to getting him a drink, and then it's revealed that he died like the week before, 2 days ago. And they only saw him because they can now see ghosts. And they don't even know that yet. It's just the readers know that. And you're like, oh shit, here it comes. Here comes the shitstorm.
it was just this great moment where you don't see it coming.
No,
because they're walking to the bar and they talk to the homeless guy who clearly exists on this corner on a normal basis, and he's acting the same way. And then they go to the bar, they get drunk, they do all this stuff. They see him again, they shout back into the bar like, "Hey, why don't you give him a drink? It's a cold night." And the bartender's just like, "Who are they talking about? Like,
they drink too much.
For 2 days." Yeah. Oh, they clearly they need to get home safely.
Oh, it was so brilliantly done. And right before that too, you get that feeling of everything's going to be okay. They're laughing, they're drinking, they're dancing. There's a little romantic moment between Anna and Charlie, and your guard's down. That's what gets you. Your guard is down, and it's not till that last sentence where you're like, "Oh shit."
The horror chills come.
Yeah.
The chills.
That was that moment alone just deserves 5 stars. Like that particular moment in the book, that play out of that scene, that is a 5-star moment of reveal.
What's great though is that he's so good at that kind of reveal that he was able to pull it out in differing levels throughout the entire book without it being like, it was still a shock and without it being overdone. Because though I wouldn't say it's like a really superb way of him doing it, but also when Charlie goes to the bathroom in the restaurant, when they're on the road trip, and okay, first off, I think Leeds has a thing about men's bathrooms that he's trying to rant about in that book.
Oh, I didn't really notice that. But and bathrooms in general. Because the shower,
he
too,
talks about, he's talking about like the guys missing his, the urinals and like why can't guys be cleaner in bathrooms? He has a whole rant there. But just like you think he's fine. You kind of forget that he shouldn't go anywhere alone.
Yeah. Oh, I thought that right away. I'm like, oh God, do not go into the bathroom.
And then the feet come down and you're just like, shh.
Yeah.
And it's just like he does that really well. Like he leads his readers into a false sense of this okayness, and then he just like whaps you, but in an extremely believable way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It was just really well done. Really well done.
I feel like when we say like what should you read this book for technique, just re-listen to the whole podcast.
Yeah. Just everything is so good. Everything is so good. One thing that I didn't love, like I didn't hate it, but I feel like I could have done without it, is the romance aspect between Anna and Charlie. I feel like the book still could have been good without it. And in the beginning, it was kind of weird for me because Anna struck me as a kid, like a teenager, fresh out of high school. And I thought Charlie was in his 30s. So I got a weird vibe when they were being flirtatious at the wake. It was also at a wake, which they acknowledged. And in the end, I accepted their little budding romance, but I still think the story would have been strong even without the romance aspect, had it just been a horror novel.
So I believe from the math, she's like 28 or 29.
Oh, okay.
She's definitely up there. Yeah, because she talks about going in and spending all her money, but then they do specifically say that she worked for him for at least 6 years.
Okay.
So she's in her upper 20s for sure. So the age difference.
Okay, that's not as weird then. She just seemed very young to me too, this way she was speaking at first, and then I got used to it.
Yeah. So that definitely was okay, but I agree with you. I do think if we're going to talk about anything that was very lacking in the story, it was just the romance in general. Like the instant moment when they see each other at the wake, it's just, oh, she's beautiful, and then like from there we're going to suddenly like want to be with her. I found that also be very hard, whereas I think he could have played it more of like a best friends relationship that turns into a sibling kind of situation too, because here was like a person that was kind of raised by his dad because she didn't have a father.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it was really left at the end too.
Yeah.
Because there was no like romantic ending at the last part, but they do have an emotional connection from what they went through, and I think you can still have that as best friends. We didn't have to add in like the kiss.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It just seemed a little cliche to add in a bit of romance with it. And I agree that I think it would have been even stronger. It probably would have been 5 stars for me had it been a best friendship or just a camaraderie of some kind instead of that romance.
I think he wanted to put stake in an emotional connection with Anna for the readers to believe Charlie wanting to save Anna at the end, because like we get why he wants to save his twin sister, that's super like understandable, but why is he wanting to take and save this sudden stranger? Most people want to save their own life first, and so I think he was trying to make it like when she gets hurt at the end at the gravestone, but we didn't need to go to romance to achieve that.
I feel like all the characters were so good that I would have believed it. Like Charlie was just a really good guy, and Anna, she's a nice person. You don't want her to die. And I don't think Like, I didn't need the romance to make me believe why he wanted to save her. Just that this is what you do when you're being stalked by the dead or something. You know, you try and save as many people as you can.
And it wasn't fair because I don't think he delivered at the end for the romance either, because we see nothing else. We don't know what happens to them, except that they run the record store together.
Yeah, I got an inkling that there was something that they were together, but it wasn't finite. So
it wasn't a payoff enough for the effort put into the writing, I think.
Yeah.
Personally.
So that is a detraction. But overall, just everything was so good. I like the music aspect to it as well. You know, you don't have... I love books that have more original, not hooks, but motifs or themes going on. And I feel like delving into the music world, the industry, classic rock, you know, pop rock, indie rock, all these different genres. It just really was fun. I loved that they made fun of the Cars for Kids jingles in this, because my husband and I both hate that song. Like, we turn it off immediately whenever it comes on. So the fact that Leeds made fun of it twice in the book, boom, fantastic. It almost makes up for the dog and horse death, but not quite, almost.
He also has a weird thing with the Eagles. I love how many times he mentioned the
Yes.
Eagles. Like, everybody likes the Eagles. No one likes the Eagles. Well,
exactly.
Then it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do appreciate he had those not out, like, kind of out there music references, but still enough that, like, a music person can follow along really well. Yeah. And I do appreciate that he didn't make me feel bad for my music taste. So he definitely is like, everyone listens to everything. Like, you don't have to just be like a diehard stan for one thing or versus the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very...
But too much mention of jazz. He needed to just kick the jazz out the window. I hate jazz.
I probably blocked it out because I, too, hate jazz.
Hey, we agree on something. I feel like we haven't agreed on
jazz
anything.
And Schrader's Chord. That was two things we agree on today. It's like a record for us.
Today is the day.
A record. Yeah.
It's funny because since we saw Doom Part 2, I'm making my partner watch the miniseries that Sci-Fi did of Children of Doom from like the early odds. And James McAvoy is in it. And it's just making me have a desire to watch Atonement right now.
Oh, God. Okay.
But he's also now, my partner's also now understanding why I had like a huge crush on James McAvoy as a kid, and he was in my top 5 for a very long time. Okay. He's starting to understand 13-year-old Kate and why this all started.
Okay. I will just choose to believe you rather than find it out for myself.
Okay, so one other thing I wanted to talk about, because I feel that this directly relates. Why are we still talking about this stupid thing? You'd think I wouldn't, like, I hate it so much I wouldn't want to give more airtime to the stupid book, but
yes,
The House of Last Resort.
Yes.
One of the things that you said you really liked about it was the slow burn and the really building of the characters. Mm-hmm. And I thought that, I mean, this book is thick. Schrader's Chord was 435 pages. And I thought that the slow burn at the beginning and the build up, but also the mix in of enough, like, the spookiness to, like, make you want to keep reading. Because for me, horror novels, one thing that makes them really good is it's always that, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, what's going to... Yeah. Moments are what drag me through the story, because I'm like, I need to know what happens. So I think that Lee was really, really good at having that slow burn beginning. Mm-hmm. So you can have that time, like when they're spending with their older sister Susan, the whole funeral aspect, the whole bits and pieces of learning about Anna's backstory and how she did that, and the conversations with her mom on the phone. But also, like, glittering in, like, the guy who speared himself in the living room during the wake, and just all these moments, and, like, the Grim Tree, which... What was with the Grim Tree? Why did they call it the Grim Tree?
That's a lingering question I have. I thought the Grim Tree was going to factor more into the story other than just his dad hanging himself from it. But yeah.
I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. Like, now I'm like, wait, you made such a big deal in the first quarter of this book. What the fuck?
Yeah, he kind of links it back to those, like, that copse of trees at the very end that plays the records, but it wasn't enough of a connection for me, because I really thought, I was waiting for that Grim Tree to come out and grab somebody, like a la Poltergeist, you know? Because that's what I kept thinking of. And I actually thought it was going to happen at the wake. Like, so the wake scene at the house, I loved every second of it, especially because I feel like Leeds prepared us for something happening with the Grim Tree, because the wake was being at the house. Everybody was like, oh my God, it's the site of the suicide. What's going to happen? And Charlie's like, oh my God, it's the Grim Tree. And I did not see the guy coming in to steal the records and then impaling himself in the crowd. It was a total misdirection, and I loved every second of that. And then it happened in front of people, too. That was great.
all this stuff with the guy who was trying to steal the records at the beginning, loved it.
Yes.
Because at first I'm like, God, is this another Fever House with read the synopsis and now we're starting with a random character at the beginning that has like, now we're going to have to wait like a third of the story to get to what the point is. And so at first I was like, oh God, this is going to suck. But then we get to like all of that and perfect. But I thought that the slow burn was superbly done in here, and it was exactly what you would have looked for in a book. I was thinking about you the whole time I was reading this. Oh, CJ's gonna love this. But again, this is why I compare him to Grady Hendrix, because he has this ability to create such in-depth character developed stories, and it's about the characters and it's about their journey while also putting in this massive horror aspect.
Yeah, he just blended everything beautifully. I didn't even think about it as a slow burn start, because to me it wasn't palpably slow. It was just telling the story, you know?
Yeah.
So it was.
But if you think about it, they didn't play the records too well into the story.
You're right.
But so well done. Like, just.
This was.
How many times can I say I loved it and it's so well done?
Yeah. Yeah.
Drinking game. Listen to this again and take a shot every time you just say so well done.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about. The horror scene at the breakfast, I thought that was so good with how disturbing it was, how the guy repeatedly shoots himself in the head, and it just was crazy and gory and
another
terrifying.
Grady Hendrix moment.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good. I really liked that each record was a different way to die. So it wasn't all just, you're going to die. You know, it was, how are we going to die? What ways? We have to try and avoid certain types of things. It's another great way to stretch out the whole premise, I think. And I did not see that coming either.
Very agreed.
Family drama, so, we talked about that. Yeah.
So question, did his dad and that museum guy, I forget his name.
Lewis.
Did they? Yeah, was it only the two of them who played the records?
Lewis played it. The dad played it.
But I assumed they played it together.
Oh, I didn't assume that at all for some reason. I thought they played him separately.
It's interesting, though, because, well, why would they play him together, though?
Yeah, I thought one
got them for Lewis.
Yeah, I thought, like, Dad got them and gave them to Lewis, and, like, he played it before he gave them to Lewis, or vice versa. I'm not sure which. But I didn't think they played them together.
Okay, so Charlie and all them did it with 4 people. Mm-hmm. So then how did they do it? And then also, how did it decide which one they got?
Oh.
Which death they got?
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's just weird, right? Like, it's very weird. So I don't know. I guess I assumed that they rigged something.
Maybe they did.
The two of them played it together. Maybe like 2 hands that each, and whatever one hit first.
Yeah,
is
because
the one they got.
What's his face? The dad said he wouldn't have chosen that way to go, the suicide by the tree, but that was what was given. Suicide was what was given to him.
Yeah.
And the other guy, I guess that was accident.
Yes, or murder. Yeah.
So maybe they did do it together.
Yeah, because, I mean, what didn't bother me so much is Lead made it very clear in his world building that you didn't have to play the records simultaneously, like start them simultaneously, because they each started it. Yeah. So that's why I kind of believe that the two then could play together, and they each did.
Yeah.
It's just a little. This is where debut-ness maybe, or like, you know, not everything has to be answered.
I did like that. I think 3 of the records were playing, and it was this heavenly sound.
Yes.
And I'm like, what is that? What's there? Like, I don't know. That was very intriguing. And then you add the 4th record, and then all hell literally breaks loose. But right before that, what was that? Was that heaven? Do you have to go through that first to get to the land of the dead? I don't know. It's so weird. I want a sequel, Scott Leeds. I want a sequel about the 3 records.
The heaven. The only other note I will say is I loved all of his Seattle references.
Yeah.
It was very well, accurately based in Seattle. I knew exactly where he was talking about. Fremont is definitely the place for that record store. He even mentioned Leavenworth. I was like, damn, that's like
I saw that, yeah.
You definitely, you lived in Seattle. So from a fellow 7-year Seattleite, I really appreciated it. It was very well done. And yeah, I think I covered everything.
Yeah, when a book is fantastic, there's not a lot of shit to say, you know?
And I'll repeat myself because, we do like to talk from a technical perspective of what to take away technically from this book. But I'm going to repeat myself. Just listen to the podcast again. Yeah. Because I think we very much covered.
Yeah, everything.
Like, this book You need to read this book for dialogue, revealing stuff as like the homeless man.
Yeah.
That was superbly done. Emotion, like emotional stake of building the emotion for the reader. Do not read it for animals.
Yeah. No. And do a little bit more showing than telling on your ending.
Yes. And yeah, this is a great example of also how to build extremely strong character story, character-driven story, as well as a plot-driven story.
Yeah.
And rereading this book, I'm actually really glad I'm not giving it 5 stars because I want to leave a little room for him to grow as an author.
Huh.
But because he's like almost there, but I see the little oomph he needs. But he's a guaranteed read. Like I'm reading his next book. Hands down.
I cannot wait to see what he comes out with next. He's definitely going to be an auto read author. I'm sticking with 4. I'm going to like 4.5 stars based on everything we talked about. I agree. There's still a little bit more.
The horse, I can't do it. I was a 4.5 until he put the fucking horses in there. I can't do it.
And the ending, the ending for me just didn't quite lay right, but everything else was just, up until that point, was just spectacular. And it was just really a good read.
Even though the ending was missing something, it still, to me, was one of the best horror endings I've read in a really long time. Because it didn't go crazy and it was believable. It just execution. It's just the execution, which is normally not the problem. It's normally the entire end. Yeah. Content and all. But yeah, I'm going to stick with 4 stars because the horses. It would be 4.5 solidly, but the horses, he has to pay. He has to learn his lesson.
That's true.
To not
he can't just give up his hearing and think it's all okay. It's not okay to kill the horses. So hear that, Scott Leeds. Next time, no animal harm, please. And you will be getting a much higher rating. Well, not much. There's not many places to go. A little higher rating.
So what? You're going to go 4.5 or 4?
I'm going to go 4.5. I'm going to go 4.5.
Well, I'm going to stay 4. And we need to celebrate. Cheers, clink glasses.
Seriously.
We agree on a book that we don't hate. Like, it's not like we agree because the book sucks.
I feel like this is a momentous occasion. It has taken us a year to get to the point where we both so enjoyed a book that we had so many nice things to say for once. I don't feel like a bitch this time. This is awesome. Because either I'm like super happy and I'm tearing you down because you liked it or you hated it, and I loved it. Or I am just tearing it down because you loved it and I hated it. But this time we were just happy. This is the happiest dark side of the word ever.
We can tag the author and the podcast.
Yes, without any worry or shame. Exactly.
And I want him to listen, to learn about his horse mistake.
Yes. If he takes nothing else away from this, the horse mistake.
The horse mistake. Sounds like the worst mistake.
Horse mistake. What's the worst mistake you can make? The horse mistake.
I have now 6 yays, you have 7 yays, and I have 5 nays, and you have 4 nays.
Okay.
So you right now have liked more books that we've read than I have.
What did you say?
You've now one more book. Like you like more books that we've read it for the podcast than I have.
Yes, that sounds about right.
By one.
That's House of Last Resort coming in on through there.
All right, and I'm sure you all have been anxiously waiting to hear what next month's book is going to be. I have seen it just flooding the market and being in a ton of lists now. But we are going to be reading Murder Road by Simone St. James. Oh, why do I keep saying Simon?
Because you do that with names, my friend. You do that. It's okay.
Simone St. James.
There you
go.
To
give a little synopsis from Goodreads, a young couple finds themselves haunted by a string of gruesome murders committed along an old deserted road in this terrifying new novel. July 95, April and Eddie have taken a wrong turn. They're looking for the small resort town where they plan to spend their honeymoon. Ooh, a honeymoon. Wow, okay. When they spot what appears to be a lone hitchhiker along the deserted road, they stop to help. But not long after the hitchhiker gets into their car, they see the blood seeping from her jacket and a truck barreling down Atticus Lane after them. When the hitchhiker dies at the local hospital, April and Eddie find themselves in the crosshairs of the Cold Lake Falls police. Unexplained murders have been happening along Atticus Line for years, and the cops finally have 2 witnesses who easily become their only suspects.
I feel like this couple is their own problem. Don't pick up hitchhikers, people. Just don't do it. It's not a good idea.
It's 95. It's from 95.
You're going to call it
people
vintage?
Do shit like that. Yeah, it's been, no, it's not vintage till next year.
Okay.
It's be 20 years. Wait.
Is that what it is?
No,
That's the threshold?
Yeah, but it's 30. Like, that's 30 years ago. God damn, I'm one of them.
Welcome to my world.
I just did it. Where I was like,
Welcome
oh yeah,
to
90s
my
were 10 years
world.
ago. No, that's
It's a fun place to be,
anyway.
full of delusion. Yay.
Well, I don't have to say this about Murder Road because Schrader's Chord was definitely horror. Finally, we read a horror book.
We did. We definitely did read a horror book. I'm excited for Murder Road because I do enjoy Simone St. James, though I love her earlier books more than her more recent ones. I feel she used to do a lot of spooky historical fiction, which I really loved, and now she's leaning more toward like true crime, murder, mystery with haunting stuff in it, but it's not as spooky as I would like. So I'm curious to see if she's sticking along those more recent veins with this new book, Murder Road, or if she's going back to her roots.
I guess we'll have to find out. I know this is your recommendation.
Yes, and I have to say that the Haunting of Maddie Clare by Simone St. James, I absolutely loved. It's creepy, it's spooky, it's great historical fiction, and it's also one of the spiciest ghost books I have ever read. Oh. There is quite the love scene in there, and I was like, hoo-ha, holy crap, I did not see that coming. Neither did she.
Hormance? Hormance? Hormance?
Hormance.
Are we having hormance?
A little hormance, yeah. It was pretty good. I'm just saying, if you want yourself a spooky but spicy read, give that one a try.
All right, friends, thank you for listening to The Dark Side of the Word, a podcast for all the dark story lovers. If you're listening to us on YouTube, then please subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. We're also a podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeart. Make sure to follow us and check out our weekly polls and questions if you're listening on Spotify. We'd also love a review. Leaving a review on our page is the equivalent of tipping your waiter. Thank you so much, friends. Bye.
Bye.